Hi, good morning everybody, and once again welcome to Pankaj Sir's Echelon Tutorials. And in this today's session, we are going to do some of the tricky questions on variations, and this is for the IGCSE curriculum. Okay, and these questions on variations, I call them tricky because they are a bit lengthy if you start working them in a normal way. Okay, it becomes very lengthy and messy also. But today I'm going to show you one trick using some arrow directions or arrow marks. Okay, and this trick really helps you in solving such problems, okay, which otherwise are very messy, okay, if you solve them otherwise. Okay, so let us go into these problems one by one, and I'll tell you what is the trick and how to get to the answer. Okay, so question number one happens to be this one. Okay, now question number one says that in a factory, if 35 workers can make 49 products in 3 days, then 20 workers working for 6 days will make how many products? Okay. Now here you can see the question itself involves a lot of quantities. Okay, so you can see that there is something, there are some three quantities which we can be identified. Number one is the number of workers, that's over here, and then the number of days that they are working for, that's over here, and the product, the number of product that is manufactured in the factory. Okay, so there are three variables, or you can say there are three quantities. Okay, now first you have to identify all the possible quantities given in the question and write them as I've written here: workers, days, and product. These are the three quantities I can identify from this particular question. Okay, then you have to start filling up the table. Okay, now first what is given here is the information that is given in full, that is you can fill in all the three columns. Okay, that you have to fill up first. So 35 workers has been given, so I'll write here 35 under the worker. This is the first thing I'm going to fill up. Then can make 49 products, so in the product column I'm going to put 49, and in 3 days, so in the days column I'm going to put 3. Okay, so this way I have completed this first row of all the three columns. Okay, so all the three columns ka entry I have made in the first row. Now coming to the second row, in the second row, you will find that one of the column will have an unknown. Okay, so in this case, what is an unknown that we'll identify first? The question says that then 20 workers working for 6 days will make how many products? So this is that unknown, how many products. Okay, so in the column of product I'm going to put a X, because that is something he wants us to find out. Okay, so there will be an unknown over here, that is this X, right? And in the days column it will be for working for 6 days, so I'll put a 6 over here, and workers is 20, so I'll put a 20 over here. 26 and the X will be the entry in the second row of this particular table. So this was my table number one, which I have to prepare. Okay, once the table is prepared, now what I'll do is invariably, or you can say essentially, you will have to put a arrow mark. Okay, in the last column, and remember, always the last column should be the column in which there is an unknown. In these three quantities, workers, days, and product, we find that the question has an unknown in the product column. Okay, so that column has to be always on the extreme right, okay, on this side. Now that carry you have to take. Okay, now put a arrow, okay, in such a way that the arrowhead, the head of the arrow is towards the unknown. Okay, so the unknown is over here, X. The arrow will be like this. Okay, can you see I've already put the arrow, but again I'll put arrow for you. It should be like this. Okay, so the arrow should be running from a number to the unknown. Okay, so 49 to X. It should not be the other way. Okay, so that is very important. So that is rule number 2 that you have to remember. After making the table, you have to put the arrow mark in this way. Okay, from a number towards the unknown. Okay, downward arrow in this case, right? Okay, now what you have to do is, this was step number, this was the original thing that you have to first prepare, okay, for the from the question. Now once this table has been prepared, step number one is put arrow in the product column where there is a unknown. Now this already, this step number one I have already explained you. So you have to put the arrow in the product column, okay, and the arrow should be it should be heading towards the unknown. Okay, as I did in the this product column. Okay, I've already done that. Such that the arrow head towards the unknown. Okay, from 49 to X. So that was step number 1, which I already explained. Step number 2 is what you have to do now. Now we have to put the similar arrows. Now this arrow has been put in the last column. Okay. Now these two columns are remaining. In that also you have to put the arrow, but you have to put the arrow with after following certain rules. Okay. So what is that rule that we are going to discuss? Step number 2 is compare with this product column any one, either days or the worker column, by ignoring the other. So you have this product column with you. Okay, you have this product column. Now with this product column, you either compare the days column ignoring the workers column, or you actually both you have to do. So first you have to compare the product column, that is the unknown column, with the days column, and while doing that you have to ignore the worker column. Okay, and next step will be to compare the product column with the workers column, and this time you will have to ignore the days column. That's how you have to do things. Okay, so now for now what I am going to do is, in step number 2, I'm going to compare the product with the workers column. Okay, so let me compare the product with the workers column. So let me compare product column, the workers column, right? The red mark I'm comparing. So that is step number 2. Compare with the this product column any one of the days or the workers column by ignoring the other. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing the worker column, the product column. Okay. Now it's not essential that the product column should always be on the right. Okay. Here you can always keep the product column on the left and the worker column on the right. No issue. Okay. Now, once the product and worker columns are kept side by side, now what I will do is, in the product column, I already have an arrow in the downward direction pointing towards the arrow. Okay, I have this arrow already in place. So what you have to do, you have to ask yourself a question. Now see what way the question has to be asked. Start from the workers column. Okay, ask yourself a question. 35 workers can produce 49 products. 35 workers can produce 49 products. Okay? 35 workers are able to produce 49 product, 49 number of product. Now 20 workers, if there are 20 workers, so number of workers is now reduced, will produce how much product? Okay. 20 workers will produce how many product? Now it is very logical. You have to be very logical in answering the question in less or more. That's all. Okay. So when 35 workers are working together, they are producing 49 number of products. When 20 workers are going to work together, that is, the number of workers has been reduced. What will be the answer for this X? Obviously it will be less. Less number of products will be produced. So you have to write a less over here. Okay. After writing a less over here, this less you keep in your mind and come to this column, worker column, and put an arrow mark in such a way that the arrow mark is pointing towards the lesser quantity. So the arrow mark will have to be put from 35 to 20 because 20 is less. Okay. So whatever answer you get here, okay, in the same fashion you will have to put the arrow mark over here. So here you got the answer as less. Okay. So here you will have to go from 35 to 20 because that is indicating less. Okay, from 35 to 20 is reducing. So you will have to put the arrow mark in this way, that is downward direction. Then coming back to the original question, the original table, you have to put the same arrow mark in the downward direction in the workers column, that is over here. This is in the downward direction, right? So arrow mark was already put here. Then the arrow mark has been put in the workers column. Now you have to put the arrow mark in the days column. Okay. And for that you have to compare these two column and you have to ignore the worker column. So that will be the next step. So now we are going to ignore the worker column and we are going to compare the product and the days column. So here again, this is step number 3. Here we are going to compare the product column with the days column. So as usual, product column will be 49 and X and the arrow going in the downward direction towards the X. Okay, that is already there. Now coming to this days column. Okay, now when you are working out this product and days column, you have to ignore that workers column. Okay, don't think about it. That is done. Okay. Now again ask the same question going from days to the product. So 3 days, in 3 days, somebody is manufacturing 49 product. So in 6 days, what will be the number of products? Will it be more or less? The answer should be only in more or less. Okay. So 3 days, in 3 days, somebody is preparing 49 products. So in 6 days, that is, he's getting more days. Okay. So in 6 days, he will be preparing more products, isn't it? More than 49. The answer you have to write here is more. You have to write more over here. And with this more back of the mind, you have to put the arrow mark in the days column such that the arrow mark is going from less to more. Okay. So see, arrow mark is going from 3 to 6. Okay. So I have to put the arrow mark this way. 3 to 6, because this is indicating more. From 3 to 6 is now this downward arrow mark again. I'll have to go to the main table, that is table number 1 over here, and I'll have to put that arrow mark over here. See that arrow mark over here. Now once all the 3 columns are ready with all the relevant arrow marks, the last step will be to write the equation. Now how to write the equation? Now I'll show you the equation here only. The equation you have to write on the left hand side, you have to write the product column or the unknown column. In this case it was product. In some other question it can be something else. So LHS should be the product column, and write the fraction in such a way that the unknown is always on the top in the numerator and the other number is on the denominator. Write x upon 40. Okay, always. This is also a mandatory rule. The x should be always in the numerator and the number should be in the denominator for the LHS column, and equal to. Now in the RHS column, you will have to put the remaining 2 columns. Okay, the values of the remaining 2 columns. Okay, so first pick up the days ka value. So this is 3 and 6. Now here numerator was taken as a x. Okay, so wherever there was an arrow head, okay, that was taken as x. Here also there's an arrow head at 6. So 6 you will have to take as the numerator and the denominator will be 3. Then just put a multiplication sign, and same thing you do for the next column. Okay, that is workers column. Here the arrowhead is this way. Okay, so numerator is on the I mean x is showing the numerator, the head is the numerator. Okay, head of the arrow is numerator, the tail is the denominator. So here again this is the head of the arrow, so that will be in the numerator, and in the denominator the tail of the arrow, that is 35. So this is the required equation. From this equation you just calculate the x, you will get the answer. Okay, if you want to calculate x, x will be equal to, now first let us do this way, 6 upon 3 times 20 upon 35 times 49. This has to be x, right? So 7 sevens are 49, 7 fives are 35, right? And 5 fours are is 20, and 3 twos are is 6. Okay, so x will be equal to 4 twos are 8, 8 into 7 is 56. Answer has to be. So if you go and check the answer, the answer is 56 over here. Can you see that? Okay. So I suppose you must have understood this first question, although it was a bit uh, you know uh, confusing. But then let us do one more problem so that the algorithm becomes very clear to you. So shall we move on to second question? The second question says that 64 men working 12 hours a day dig a pond which is 50-meter long, 2-meter wide, and 2-meter deep in 5 days. Okay, so a lot of quantities you can see over here. In how many days, working 8 hours per day, will 80 men dig a pond 75-meter long, 4-meter wide, and 3-meter deep? Okay, so looking at the question, first of all, it looks to be very horrible. Okay, so in a normal way, if you go and approach this particular question, there will be a lot of confusion and a lot of messy it will become. So let us try to do this by the arrow method. Okay, so as I told you, what you have to do is first you have to make a table. Okay, so this is that step number 1, making the table. Now for making the table, you'll have to identify all the quantities. It's 64 men working. So men is the first quantity. Okay, men working, right? Number of men. Then 12 hours a day. So hours a day is another quantity. This is one quantity, men work hours a day. So can you see hours a day? This is the second quantity that I have picked up. Then dig a pond which is 50-meter long. So long, the length of the pond, the third quantity. Okay. Then 2-meter wide. So the pond ka width, that is the another quantity. So this is the first, second, third, and fourth quantity. Okay, fourth quantity is the width of the pond. Then you have the depth of the pond also. Okay, can you see here? Meter deep. So this depth is one more quantity. So how many quantities so far we have identified? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. After that, uh, there's one more quantity. That is the days quantity. Am I right? Okay. This is one more quantity. Can you see days? So that days quantity I'm writing over here. So in all, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 quantities that I have identified for this question. Can you see these 6 circles? 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Done with that? Okay. Now let us read the further question further. In how many days? So the question asked is in how many days? So the unknown is lying in this days column. So days column I am taking on the extreme right because the unknown is in the days column. How many days he has asked you? Okay. So let that how many days be x. Let this how many days be x. So that is the unknown. So unknown is in the days column. So days column I am going to purposely keep it on the extreme right, which I have done over here. Okay. Now I will try to fill up the table. So the table says that 64 men. So in men column I am putting 64. Working 12 hours a day. So 12 I am putting in hours per day. Dig a pond 50-meter long. So the length of the pond I am putting 50. Then width of the pond I am putting 2 meter. Then depth of the pond I am putting again 2 meter. And in how many days? 5 days. So in the days column I am putting 5. Can you see I have put up all the values? Okay. This is the way you have to fill up the first row. Now coming to the second row. Okay. So if you read the question further, you will get the information to be put in the second row. In how many days? So in this how many days means x I am going to put in the days column. So let that how many days be x. Okay. Working 8 hours per day. So again in hours per day I am putting a 8. 80 men. So in men column I'll put 80. Dig a pond which is 75-meter long. So in the length column I am putting 75 meter. In the width column I'll put 4, and in the depth column I'll put 3. And you see this second row is also put, has been entered. So your table is now ready. Okay. Once the table is ready, then you have to what you have to do now. This all comes in step 1 only. So in step 1 what you have to do, you have to prepare the table with a certain number of rows and certain number of columns. Okay, properly you have to see the question and prepare the table. Once the table is made, in step number 1 only you have to make the table first along with the unknown, and you have to put the arrow mark in such a way that the arrow head, this head of the arrow is always pointing towards the unknown, that is the x, and that arrowhead will be in the last column. Okay, the last column. So this thing till here, whatever steps whatever I have done will come in step 1. Okay, so in step 1 you have to prepare the table, you have to fill in the 2 rows, you have to put the unknown, and you have to put the arrow mark appropriately in the last column. Okay, then step number 2. Step number 2, what you have to do is, now you will have to put, now here in this question you can see already the arrow marks are put by me. Okay, these arrow marks are put by me. So let me do one thing. For the time being I am removing this arrow, right? Because you will get otherwise confused saying that already arrow marks were put. Okay, so this is the first step. You have to just put the arrow mark in the last column, and that too the arrowhead should be pointing towards the x. Okay, so arrow mark will be here, in this case it will be in the downward direction, right? That's it. Okay, now step number 2 is you will have to take one by one all the remaining quantities. Now this is the last column. With this column you have to compare all these quantities 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 quantities. You will have to compare one by one, and while you are comparing this last column with any of this quantity, okay, you have to ignore the other quantity, right? So first let us try to compare this last column, that is days column, y and x. So my days column, now that I will compare with the men column. Okay, so this two I am comparing now. These two, days and men. Can you see? Days and men. So in the days column, it is phi and x. So I have written phi and x, and there's already arrow mark put in the downward direction. So that should be there. Okay. Now ask the question. Okay. Now what question you have to ask? Now this arrow is also not there. You have to put the arrow now. So ask the question from men column, you go to the days column. Okay. So ask the question to yourself, like 64 men, okay, can work for 5 days and do something. Okay. 64 men can work for 5 days and do something. 80 men can work for how many days to do that same thing? Getting it? 64 men are working for 5 days and they are doing some sort of a work. Some work is fixed. Okay. Was painting a room. In this case, it is digging that particular pitch. Okay. So digging that hole. So 64 men, when they are working together for 5 days, then that hole can be dug. Okay. But now suppose somebody is increasing the number of men to 80. From 64 it has come to 80. What do you think, for making that for digging that same hole, same dimension hole, what will be the number of days required? Less or more? The answer is obviously less, because now we have increased the number of workers. So when more workers are, and more men are involved, okay, the number of days taken will be less. Okay, so here you have to write the answer as less. Now you have to put an arrow mark going towards less. Okay, so the arrow mark will be going from 80 to 64, because that is going towards less. From 80 to 64 is going towards less. Okay, so this is how the arrow mark will come in the men's column. I'll put an arrow mark from 80 to 64. That arrow mark. So this arrow mark was already put. The second arrow mark is also ready. Now let us try to put the arrow mark for hours per day. Okay. So again, compare this last column with the hours per day column. Okay. Then the last column you have days over here. Okay. So you have 5 and x over here, and hours per day you have 12 and 8. Okay. So let us try to put the arrow mark. Now this is already put, so I will remove it. Now let us see how the arrow you have to put. Now ask yourself the question, go from hour per day to days. Okay. So 12 hours, working 12 hours per day. Okay, working 12 hours per day. Uh, if 5 days are required, then working 8 hours per day. Now the number of hours per day is reduced. Okay. So when the number of hours per day is reduced, then the number of days required should be obviously more. Okay. So logically, if you ask this question to yourself, whatever answer you are getting, those answers are very important. Here you will get the answer as more. Okay. Will require more number of days, because the number of hours per day you have reduced, isn't it? So more days will be required. So this more will give you the hint, like where the arrow should go. So in this column, you make an arrow going from lesser to the more amount. So it should be going from 8 to 12. The arrow will be going from 8 to 12. This way you have to keep on making arrow marks in each and every column. Now let us try to make an arrow mark for the length column. Okay, so 5x is given to you. Okay, so here the arrow mark is in this direction. Okay, length mate is 50 and 75. You have to write in this order only. Okay, don't change the order. So this is 50 on the top and 75 at the bottom. Here also you have to keep 50 on the top and 75 at the bottom. Never ever try to change the order of anything. Okay, now if you want to decide on this arrow, what should be the arrow? Now it was already in the downward direction, but I am telling you how you got that downward arrow. Now ask the question, 50-meter long. Okay, 50-meter long hole you want to dig. Okay, and that will require say 5 days. Now suppose somebody says that no, 75-meter long hole has to be dug. So the length has been increased. So what will be the what will happen to the days? Will it be increasing or it will be reducing? Obviously it will be increasing because the amount of work is increased now. 50 ki jagah pe now you have to dig a hole of 75-meter long. Okay, so more will be the answer over here. So the arrow mark will be going from 50 to 75. That is indicating more. 50 is less and 75 is more. So 50 to 75. The arrow mark will be like this. Got it? Same way if you go for the width, again for the width, you can see here, this is the last column, days column, that is 5 and x. The width column you have 2 and 4, you have 2 and 4. Now ask the question, for 2-meter wide, you require 5 days. For 4-meter wide hole, you will require how many days? You will require more days. The answer will be more. So arrow mark will be going from 2 to 4, from less to more. So here the arrow mark will be 2 to 4. And again the last column, that is depth. Okay, so this is days column 5 and x. This is depth column 2 and 3. Now ask the same question, like 2-meter deep. If you want to dig a hole, it will require 5 days. If you want to dig a 3-meter deep hole, 3 meter means there will be more work. So days required will be more. So here the answer will be more. So arrow mark will be going from 2 to 3. Okay, from less to more. 2 to 3. All your arrow marks are ready. Once these arrow marks are ready, the last step will be just to write the equation. Now I'll write the equation here only for you. So on the left hand side, you will have to write this unknown wala equation in such a way that x is always in the numerator. So you will have to write x upon 5 equal to. On the right hand side, one by one you will have to pick up and see the order goes in this way only. So whatever is wherever you see the arrowhead, that you will put in the numerator and the tail you will put in the denominator. Okay, so here the head may you have 64, so you will put 64 in the numerator, and tail may you have 80, so 80 you will put in the denominator into. Now here you have 12 and 8, 12 at the head, so 12 in the numerator, 8 in the denominator. Same way here, 75 in the numerator and 50 in the denominator. And here 4 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator, right? And the last column will be 3 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator. Okay, so your x will be equal to this. Okay, that is whatever calculation you get upon. Okay, let me do that. Now this, if I do 8 8 is 64, 8 10 is 80, right? Okay, and then what I can do is, okay, 5 2 is 10 and 3 6 2 is 12. Okay, here I'll get a 6 and this 2 will cut here 3 times. Okay, fine. Now 50 and 75, 25 into 2 is 55, 25 into 3, fine. Then 3, what else is there? Okay. This 2 will go here 2 times, 2. Okay, and this 2 and 2 will also cut. Okay, so you are left with 3 into 3 9, 9 into 3 27, 7 upon 5. Right? So x upon 5 is equal to 27 upon 5. So x will be equal to 27 upon 5. This 5 will come over here. This 5 and 5 will cut. My answer happens to be x equal to 12. Final answer for this particular question is 27. Okay, 27 days. Can you see the answer here is 7 days. Okay, and that was the second question. Okay. Let us do one more question so that this particular method becomes drilled into your brain properly. Okay. Question number 3 says that if one man or two women or three children can harvest a field in 55 days, then one man and one woman and one child together will harvest the same field in how many days? Now this is a very simple question, only there is some confusion, okay, on these two statements, that is one man or two women or three children. Here what he wants to say is one man is equivalent to 2 women, and that is equivalent to 3 children. Okay, and either one man you take, or 2 women you take, or 3 children you take, they are going to harvest the field in 55 days. That is what he wants to say. So first what we will do, instead of this so many variables, so many quantities, we'll convert this into a single quantity. Let us choose that quantity as children. So one man is equivalent to 2 women. So can I write here one man is equal to 2 women and is equal to 3 children. This statement I have written from here. One man or 2 women or 3 children. One man equal to 2 women equal to 3 children. Okay. Now one man equal to 3 children. From this I can write one man is equal to 3 children. Okay. And 2 women is equal to 3 children. So one woman will be equal to 3 by 2 children. Yes, so I get one man is equivalent to 3 children and one woman is equivalent to 3 by 2 children. Even though you are getting in fraction, don't bother about it. Okay, it's a mathematical uh, problem. Okay, so 3 by 2 is 1.5. So don't think that how you can get 1.5 children. It's a mathematical question, so you can get such values. Okay, so one man is equivalent to 3 children, one woman is equivalent to 3 by 2 children. Okay, now what he is saying is, can you see here one man and one woman and one child? So let us take one man plus a woman plus one child. Now this total, because there are three different variables, I want to convert it into one variable only. So let me take all these three in terms of children only. Okay. So I know one man is how many children? One man is equal to 3 children. So instead of one man, I'll write 3 children. Instead of one woman, I'll write 3 by 2 children, and one child, I'm going to write one child only. So all these three numbers, when I add up, will get converted into a single quantity, which is children. So this, if you work out, this will be 3 plus 3 by 2 plus 1 children, that is equal to 6 plus 3 plus 2 upon 2. This is doing LCM. You'll get the answer as 5.5 children. Okay, 11 upon 2 is 5.5 children. So I get this equation that one man and one woman and one child can be replaced by 5.5 children. Okay. Now we will try to make that table. Okay. And the table will be in terms of days and children only. Okay. So days column, I'm going to put 55 and X, because the question says that one man or two women or three children can harvest a field in 55 days. So three children and 55 days I'm going to put in the first row. Can I see in the days column I have put 55 children, 55 days, and in the children column I am putting 3 days, 3 children. Okay, 55 days and 3 children. Then the question asked is how many days will be required for 5.5 children. Now this 5.5 has been arrived from this particular working. Okay? So once you get this column, now next is I'm going to put an arrow mark in the downward direction, because X is the downward direction. I'm going to put arrow mark this way. Now I'm going to ask this question from going from children to days. 3 children, okay, can need 55 days. 3 children need 55 days for completing certain work. So if there are 5.5 children, now 5.5 children is definitely more than 3. Okay, so the number of children is increased. So what will happen to the days? Will it be increasing or it will be decreasing? Obviously, when the number of children are increased, the number of days required for doing the work will be decreasing. So here I am writing less. Okay, so the number of days, that is X required, will be less. So once I get this answer less, I'm going to put the arrow mark here in such a way that the arrow mark is going from more to less. It's from 5.5 to. So I have got this arrow mark over here. Now once the arrow mark is ready, I'm going to write the equation. While writing the equation, what I'm going to take care of is the last column I'm going to write as X upon 55. The numerator should always have X. Okay, the unknown. And 55 will go in the denominator. This is LHS. Right hand side you have only one column. Okay, so here the head will be going in the numerator. So head is pointing towards the 3. So 3 will be going in the numerator and 5.5 will be going in the denominator. Now from here, if I work out X, it will be 3 upon 5.5 times 55. That should work out to X equal to 3 upon 55 upon 10 into a 55. X will be equal to 3 times 10 upon 55 into 50, 55 cuts, and x will be equal to 3 times 10, that is 30. That's the answer. It is. So these three tricky questions on variation I have discussed, and I have used a very simple and a very you know appropriate method, which is known as the arrow method. Now this method, if I am not mistaken, is also known as the box method, certain curriculum. But then this is a very good method for solving this type of problems on variation. So that was all for today's session. If you happen to like my video, today's video, please subscribe my video, please subscribe my channel, and that's all for today. Bye.